Well, sure.
Everybody, we've got a couple people still streaming in the doors. We'll get started in 1 minute.
After my family.
Far more recognized for their
That was natural.
Everybody, aloha everyone. Welcome and mahalo for joining us this evening for our monthly town meeting. I am Mary Beth Lachak, president of the Waimea Community Association. Our other WCA officers include our vice president, Nancy Carr-Smith, our treasurer, Victor Tom, our secretary, Michaela Bruno, and our directors, Riley Smith, David Greenwell, Patty Cook, Chris Wong, Brian Ushijima, and Mani Olsen-Chong. We are excited to have tonight's speakers with us, Representative David Tarnas on Zoom and Senator Tim Richards. They will be providing updates from this year's legislative session and what we may expect moving forward. We are streaming live on our Waimea Community Association YouTube channel, and there's a link on the Facebook page, which can be found. You can also find it on our website homepage, waimeatown.org. This recording will be made available for later viewing. We are happy to have all of you who could join us here in person and equally happy to welcome the more than 300 who log in virtually to watch many of our WCA meetings. The technology is just amazing that we're able to do this. If you haven't already done so, we encourage you to become a member of the WCA. You can do this at the sign-in desk over there with Riley and Patty. You can join via our website or by mailing a check to our PO box, which is on the backside of your agenda. We are all volunteers, so your membership helps pay for the hard costs of operating. Recently, we've heard some questions in the community as to the role of the WCA's Planning and Design Review Committee. In light of these questions, I just wanted to take a moment to explain the role of this committee. The WCA's All-Volunteer Planning and Design Review Committee strives to implement the Waimea Design Plan, which was adopted by the County Council in 1986. The committee serves in an advisory-only role to the Hawaii County Planning Department regarding planning proposals, development applications, and building permits for all commercial and light industrial properties in Waimea that are required to follow the county's plan approval process. The WCA has worked with the County of Hawaii Planning Department for more than 35 years and is deeply grateful for the staff's collaboration and willingness to engage in community input. If you have any questions about the committee and its role, please see our website, which provides a link to the 1986 Waimea Design Plan, County Council Resolution 21486, accepting this design plan, and the Planning and Design Review Committee's checklist. Additionally, you can email the WCA at the email address listed on tonight's agenda. Here with us tonight are committee members Nancy Carr-Smith, Patty Cook, David Greenwell, and we're missing Chris this evening. They can answer any pressing questions you may have this evening. The committee also includes a couple of other community members, including an architect and a contractor. We appreciate overall your support and appreciate Waimea as a community that respects each other even when we don't always agree. We are grateful to be here at the Keck Observatory this month, and we very much appreciate their willingness to let us use this space this month and next month, July 10th. I'd like to welcome up Andrew Odell, who will be speaking on behalf of Rich Matsuda.
Well, good evening, everyone. Just wanted to welcome you to our space here at Keck. We're so happy to be able to welcome in the community and to be able to host these Waimea Community Association meetings. So just a couple quick housekeeping items for me. If there is a fire alarm or any other sort of emergency, we will exit out those doors and meet in the parking lot out there. Restrooms are just through the double doors to my left and basically behind on the other side of this wall behind you. But again, just welcome and enjoy the meeting.
Yeah, thank you. Presenters, please keep your eyes on David Greenwell right here, who is our timer this evening. Well, hello, as always, David. We want to thank again the team at the Keck Observatory, including Andrew Odell, who is helping with our tech support, and Keith Rashawn, who's also here with us for a bit this evening. All right, as we continue our tradition of honoring and respecting various faith groups that make up our wonderful community, tonight we welcome Pastor Eric Paul, who is the coordinator for justice and compassion at the Church of the Nazarene. We appreciate you offering the full.
He pule kako. Aloha ke akua maunu. You are present in the whole universe, from the vakea to the smallest creatures. Your aloha stretches across the aina. Bless the aina and those who care for it. May those who abuse it, knowingly or unknowingly, find connection and healing through it and turn from their ways. Bring healing to our lives and to this place. May we protect the aina and not destroy it. Sow beauty and not destruction. Seek connection and not separation. E kahaku, e aloha mai. Fill us with peace. that we may live as brothers and sisters, harming no one. Aloha keakua, God of the poor. We are only as healthy of a community as the poorest among us. May we strive to show hospitality, humility in the things we do not know, and grace to those who wish us harm. E kahaku e aloha mai. For Kamuela, may our gathering bear the fruit of justice and peace. May we live enriched in the light of aloha. May our words benefit one another and not sow division. Bless those who care so much for this community that they volunteer their time and efforts to organize us each month. May our elected officials remain steadfast in how they malama the Aina, this community, and the world. May their efforts bless the poor, the sick, the homeless, the immigrants, the Kanaka Maoli, the hungry, our keiki, and all who call Waimea home. E kahaku, e aloha mai. Amen.
Amen.
Mahalo, Pastor, and we will see from Eric again in a little period of time. All right, up next are our community announcements. So Michaela's going to load them on the screen for us. All right. We will go through these announcements pretty quickly. As always, we have a lot going on in Waimea this month, and I know this is not comprehensive because when I was picking up coffee, Waimea Coffee Company, I noticed that in fact, there were a couple of flyers that we didn't have. So anyway, we are starting with arts in Waimea. Today is the start of the Elemental Balance Show at the Firehouse Gallery. It runs through July 27th. This Saturday marks the start of 2 exhibits at Kahilu Theater with opening reception from 5 to 7 p.m. on Saturday. Saturday mornings, Kamuela Hardwoods will host an artisan hui from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. In addition to a number of artisans and food vendors, come by to meet Littlefoot and Pretty and Platinum, 2 alpacas from Wayfinder Gardens, and you will be allowed to pet the alpacas. Next slide, please. Narcan distributions will occur this Saturday at KTA Waimea from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and Saturday, June 28th at the Waikoloa KTA. If you miss these distributions, you can pick up Narcan every day during regular business hours at Tutu's house. Next slide, please. All right, all amateur radio operators are invited to the first annual Ke Ana Koru Summit on Thursday, June 12th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Hilo. Lunch is provided, and please RSVP by June 9th. Next slide, please. The 2025 Hawaii County 4-H Livestock Show and Auction is June 13th and 14th at the Anderson Arena at the Rocking Chair Ranch. Animal showing is Friday with a live auction to follow on Saturday at 2 p.m. Next slide. Free pet vaccination and microchip at the Waikoloa Stables on June 15th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Please register using this QR code. All right, next slide. Blood donation at Hawaii Preparatory Academy on June 17th. These donations are by appointment only. To schedule, call the Blood Bank of Hawaii at 808-848-4770. Next slide, please. Register by June 19th for the Kohala Keiki Fishing Derby on June 28th from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. The free fishing contest is open to the first 100 keiki to register in person at either the North or South Kohala police stations. WCA is a very proud sponsor of this event. Slide. Tickets are now available for the 61st annual Parker Ranch Rodeo and Horse Races on July 4th. Annual gates open at 7:30 a.m. Pre-sale tickets are available at Kamuela Hardwoods, Paniolo Preservation Society, the Waimea Butcher Shop, and you can also purchase them online. Slide. Hike, snorkel, or dive for trash during the summer cleanup at Kawaihae Puaka Ilima Surf Park on Saturday, July 12th from 8 a.m. to noon. Please RSVP on I'm sorry, the QR code is very tiny. We'll have this one on our website, on our Facebook page. And last but most certainly not least, save the date for the annual Waimea Community Association First Responders Dinner on Friday, November 21st from 5 to 7:30 p.m. at Keck Town Hall. If you have any questions, please contact Nancy Carson. All right, thank you for that, Michaela. Now, this month, our monthly nonprofit is the West Hawaii Mediation Center. We welcome back up to the front of the room, Eric Paul, who serves as the executive director for the center. Mahalo, Eric, for speaking with us today and for your previous work offering the pule. As always, we will pass the basket during the presentation for those who are inspired to make a donation.
Thank you so much. Well, it's so good to be here with everyone. I serve many roles in the community. One is a pastor within the Church of the Nazarene, but mostly I spend a lot of my time as the executive director of West Hawaii Mediation Center. And I'm thrilled to be able to share a little bit about the work that we do. If we could go to the first slide. It's just me. We're coming. So I'll just continue while it comes, and then you can jump to slide 2. So I want to take a few minutes to share about our mission, our work, and then how we actually fulfill that mission in the community. So our mission is very simple. We help people resolve conflict. And by simple, I mean it's really easy to say as a sentence. It's a lot harder to do when you're sitting in a room with 2 people who haven't talked in 4 months or 6 months or a year. So our mission is to help people resolve conflict. And my guess is that most of us in this room, what is it, June 5th, have experienced conflict this month. Either with your family, with your coworkers, with your neighbors. We all experience conflict, and we believe at the Mediation Center, it's how we engage conflict that matters for either positive or negative outcomes. And so the way in which we work towards positive outcomes is through our community mediation program, peer mediation in West Hawaii schools, and with our restorative justice program. So I want to share a little bit about community mediation at the front, and I'll go through each of these. So community mediation. We create a space for facilitated conversation between 2 parties in conflict. So how does this look? Well, 2 trained neutral mediators facilitate the conversation to reach the parties so that they can talk with one another to get to an agreement, a mutual agreement. Those who come to mediation, it's their choice. It's voluntary. If a person does not want to be there, they do not have to be there. They choose to be there. Low cost. So we offer mediation on a sliding scale based on income. We do not turn anyone away if they cannot afford it. And then it's based on a referral program. Anyone can call and request a mediation. Our case manager is ready. We also get referrals from the court system, both district and family court. Only about 50% of our cases come from district or family court. The other 50% are from local folks who call our line and want to have a mediation. That could be organizations like HOA or condo associations, could be schools, could be West Hawaii Association of Realtors, right? But referrals come our way. We could go to the next slide. So last year we had served 317 cases with 639 clients and had a 56% agreement rate. It's a little lower last year than our kind of annual rate hovers around 64%. But we still had a 94% satisfaction rate. So there's a gap between that agreement rate, right? And the satisfaction rate that people who go through mediation, only about 56%, 60% walk out with an agreement in hand. But 94% say, I'm glad I did this. And the number one feedback we get is, I at least had an opportunity to be heard. When you're in conflict, one of the things that you need is to be heard, right? And that's what we find through these satisfaction reports. Could you go to the next slide, please? Case types. We do property disputes, condo associations, custody and separation for families, landlord-tenant disputes, civil rights, automobile accidents, HOAs, eviction cases are all within our community mediation program. One of the things that happened last year, one of these 600 clients that we served was a landlord-tenant case. He called to say his landlord wanted him to move off her property in North Gopala. Their relationship had started really well. They were friends, and he had built a house on her property. But then communication kind of dwindled and the relationship broke down, and they called our case manager because the property owner wanted to kick this tenant off. When they got to the mediation, what they actually found was that what this landlord really wanted was to feel safe and to have that relationship and friendship back. And so they were able to work together to keep him on the property and housed, and worked on the benefit of their friendship as well. And they were able to walk out with an agreement in hand and did just that. We also work for peer mediation work in West Hawaii schools. You can go to the next slide for me. We provide conflict resolution and peer mediation training in West Hawaii schools. Our keiki are learning healthy ways to manage conflict, communicate effectively, and build relationships. You can go to the next one, please. I am moving fairly quickly through this. We worked, this is just through March. So school ended last week. We're still working on data points all the way from to have a full year. So these were collected in March. 7 elementary, 7 schools total, but including both elementary and middle schools. We trained 224 students, and they conducted 172 mediations in our schools. 67% of those mediations were referred by the students. That means it wasn't coming from staff or teachers. Students recognized that there was a conflict and knew that there was a mechanism in place that they could turn to resolve it. You could go to the next slide for me. We also do restorative justice work. We create spaces of healing in the wake of harm, crime, and wrongdoing. Restorative justice in part centers the needs of the victim, holds accountable the offenders, and rebuilds trust in community. In short, we work to make things right, which addresses harms, the causes of that harm, and plans for the future so it doesn't happen again. And so this is also kind of a mediated space, trained facilitators who do what's called victim offender conferencing. Oh, I missed something. I wanted to share what these middle schoolers are saying. So they gave us feedback after each year, and our middle schoolers are sharing, I learned to hear both sides before making conclusions. I learned it's important to find the full story. I learned to lead by example and not fight with each other. I learned that there are other ways to figure things out. And this from one of the counselors, one of our partners' schools. The peer mediation training is an asset to our campus as it seeks to train students in conflict resolution skills, a vital competency for middle school students. I was impressed by how quickly our students could grasp the concept of active listening skills and perform them confidently. As the school's only counselor, I am appreciative of the collaborative relationship we have with the Mediation Center. So what I want to share, if you could go to the last slide for me. The work we do literally changes people's lives and our community in positive ways. Through mediation, moms and dads are able to visit their children. Tenants have homes to live in, wages to workers are being paid in full, separated couples are able to move forward in a better way, families work together to decide how to care for an aging parent. These are just a few of the outcomes that come across through our community mediation program. I have 1 minute left, I'm done. Thank you again so much for your time. I appreciate you listening and your support for the Mediation Center. We're grateful. Thank you so much.
Oh, Eric, you are done for this evening. I'm not going to call you back up here again. All right, next I would like to welcome Lieutenant Aaron Moda. Captain, you're not speaking today? Oh, Captain's coming up to share this month's Waimea Community Police update.
Aloha, everybody. Good to see you guys tonight. Again, my name is Roy Valera, and I serve as the captain for the South Kohala District. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce a new addition to our team, Lieutenant Aaron Tamota, and he would like to say a few words.
Hi, Aaron Tamota. I am the lieutenant here in Waimea now. 15 years experience, trained in Hilo, went solo patrol in Kona. Became a field training officer there. Then I went to Ka'u as a community policing officer where I was in charge of Ocean View. After about 7 months of driving there, I got transferred back to Kona as a community policing officer where I worked under then Sergeant Roy Valera. 2 weeks he had me, set me up, signed me up for bike patrol training. And then after 2 weeks, I got selected for a task force. I did that for a couple of years until TNT occurred, and after that, I got promoted to detective on the west side of the island. And then the last 5 years, I was sergeant of Kona Patrol. So yeah, thank you guys. I'm very honored to be here. Personally, I am married, I have 2 kids, 3 dogs, and my puppy just gave birth to 8 puppies. I drive slow, very slow home because I'll be on dog duty when I get home. I live in Kona. So yes, I can do it. Couple things besides the Kiki Fishing Derby on June 19th. 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. We have coffee with a cop at Kohala Coffee Company in the Waikoloa Shopping Plaza. Once again, that's June 19th, 2 weeks from now, 7 to 10.
At this time, I'd like to go over some traffic information and some crime stats. So for the month of May, we had 5 DUI arrests. We had a slight decrease in major traffic accidents. There were 9. That's good news. There were no fatal traffic accidents in our district. And there was also a slight decrease in reckless driver calls. For April, we had 49. For May, we had 39. So I don't know if that's attributed to everybody driving better or people not calling, but, lower numbers in those regards are always great. In regards to some crime trends, the most notable one that I wanted to mention, and I know I mention it every time, is that for thefts, we had a very slight decrease in the amount of thefts that were reported. But a good majority of the thefts that did occur in our district were for items that were unsecured. So unfortunately, it's a sign of the time. We need to lock up our stuff and keep our eyes on our belongings because, criminals are out there and they look for the opportunity. I did want to make a special mention. Sorry, I was watching the time. I still got 20 minutes? Perfect. I did want to make a special mention about a great organization out there. It's the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and our friend David Griffin. And they do great work within our South Kohala district. And they're tasked with finding unexploded munitions from formerly, what are FUDs? I forget FUDs. Yes, thank you very much. And the Waikoloa maneuver area actually encompasses a good majority of the South Kohala district. And what they do is they get permission from you to go on your private property to do a screen of your property. And one area in particular that they have not been able to really reach out to was the area Makai of HPA on Kawaihae Road. So if any of you live in that area or have friends and relatives that live in that area, please contact the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers so that they can come out and take a look at your land and see if you have any unexploded ordnance on your land. I'll give you a quick phone number, 808-476-0026. I said it was quick, so I'll say it again. 808-476-0026. And that is a direct line to Mr. David Griffin. If you live in that area and need your property to be screened for unexploded ordnance. And of course, I'm going to mention the 3 R's. Anybody know the 3 R's in regards to unexploded ordnance? It was recognize that a weird item that you see may be an unexploded ordnance. Oh, am I time up?
You're getting close.
Okay. Retreat, meaning get away from there safely. And the last part is report. Call 911 to let us know that you may have found an unexploded ordinance in your area, and we will send the proper people to go out and assess. Okay, now it's time? Perfect. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you and welcome, Lieutenant. All right, now we're getting to the main event of our meeting. We are delighted to welcome State Representative David Tarnas and Senator Tim Richards to this month's meeting. It's been a very busy session for them, and we appreciate them providing an update now that the session is out. We've left lots of times for questions at the end of the two presentations, so that we ask you hold your questions until the end. First up, joining us via Zoom is District 8 Representative David Tarnas. Representative Tarnas.
Aloha, everyone. Thank you so much. I apologize, I'm not there in person. I'm visiting family right now. I do have a presentation. I'll go directly to that if I may. Let's see if I'm allowed to share. Well, it looks like I'm not allowed to share. Here we are. Okay. Let me turn this on and start my presentation. So this legislative session was very successful, certainly in the work that I'm doing. I'm chair of the Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs Committee, and I have the opportunity to work for you and work on all the issues related to the Judiciary Department, the Judiciary branch. And so what I am going to be discussing tonight are the results of this session. And let's see, I want to look. Excuse me a moment while I figure out how to move this. So this session has been a challenging session, I have to say, because we have been dealing with some challenges coming out of Washington, D.C., where it's very unpredictable about what we can do and what they will be doing. So we've focused on what we can actually control. And so I'm having a challenge here, trying to see where I can. Here we go. Slideshow. Start from beginning. Okay. There we go. Okay. So the House majority, the Democrats, have figured out what are the priority things that we wanted to try to address. And so we focused on the judiciary funding, biosecurity, which Senator Richards will speak to at length, because his expertise is in and his view of the legislative work we do is through the lens of agriculture, and biosecurity is a very important part of that. We needed to follow up to provide settlement for those who suffered from damages and loss of life from the Maui wildfire, among other matters. So these are the priority appropriation bills that we passed. The first one in biosecurity, I'll leave that to Senator Richards to cover, but primarily just overview, we added biosecurity to the Agriculture Department's mission because it is really an existential threat to our agricultural operations within the state. We supported the farmers in our community by establishing and funding with $1 million the Farm to Families program, which basically we purchase from farms food that then is distributed to needy families that are food insecure, through different nonprofit organizations. So it's directly from the farms to the families. We also have been supporting additional positions and facilities for publicly funded preschool programs, which is really important, I believe, for supporting our community. We support an internship program to help students who want to move directly from high school into working different jobs, and this is an opportunity for them to do that. Ohana zones and Kauhale zones are our efforts to address the homelessness problem and provide transitional housing for people so they can get off the streets and into housing. We provided $100 million into the rental housing revolving fund to help build affordable rentals and also to support and subsidize rent for those who are in need. And then we also provided some additional support for reentry services for those who are incarcerated so that we can help them get back into the community and be productive members. There's a lot of work we did. I'm just going to cover the highlights during this presentation. All of these details are going to be available. I sent out to everybody in the mail my report, which has a lot of these details. I also have an e-newsletter, which I encourage you to subscribe to, and you will be able to get this entire presentation there. Wildfire prevention and mitigation. We appropriated a staggering amount of money, $807.5 million, which is the state's portion of the settlement to those people who lost lives and their families, their surviving members of the family of those who lost lives in the Maui wildfire, because the state holds some responsibility for the fire itself. Others, like the electric utility and large landowners in the area around Lahaina, also contributed significant funds to this. After the fire, we did a whole review of what worked and what did not work and made recommendations, and this by the Fire Safety Research Institute. We implemented a lot of those recommendations, including setting up a state fire marshal, which is a new program in the state. We're one of the few states that do not have a fire marshal for the entire state. Now we do, and we can move forward and try to address some of these concerns so we don't have another one of these fires. I'll note that we had fires the same day that Lahaina burned, but it's because of our farmers, our ranchers, our firefighters, volunteer firefighters, and in uniform, that we were successful in keeping the fires from damaging more property. And so we were fortunate, Lahaina was not so fortunate, and we want to prevent these tragedies in the future. We provided additional funding to the state, to Department of Land and Natural Resources, so they can better manage our state lands and also respond to future fires. And we also supported the utilities so that they can finance wildfire mitigation measures, which are going to be expensive, but we wanted to finance them in a way that results in the least amount of increase in our rates for paying for electricity. So that was really important. So in addition to the fire marshal, we also provided 22 new positions and almost $15 million to DLNR for fire protection programs so that we can fight the fires when they do happen. Big year for the environment. We actually increased the transient accommodations tax by a little bit, and those funds are specifically going to environmental protection programs. This is the first time we've been able to do that. We've tried to do it for a number of years, and we finally were able to do it this year. And the feedback we've gotten has been very positive. We've appropriated funds to the Department of Land and Natural Resources for a Green Jobs Youth Corps program, which is a successful program we've run before. We're able to continue it now. I'll leave the agriculture discussion to Senator Richards, who can speak more to what we've done to address agricultural theft and also expand the mission of the Ag Department to include biosecurity. We passed a number of bills related to firearm safety, improving the requirements for making sure that you store your firearms safely in your home, making sure that violent felons are not allowed to have firearms, and if they do, that they're punished for it. We want to make sure that doesn't happen. We also passed a bill that establishes for the first time laws to prevent the possession, transfer, and sale of ghost guns that you read about in the paper and read about in the news, which is an unfortunate thing that's happening throughout the country, and we're able to address this here. We also provided additional funding for a very successful gun buyback program so that people have firearms in their house that they don't want anymore, that they could be able to bring them in and sell them back to the state. Anytime you have a firearm you no longer want, you can return it to a police station. There's ways to do that, and they'd be happy to help you with that. Fireworks continues to be a challenge in our community, so we passed a law and increased funding to do more sting operations to try to prevent the influx, the importation of these illegal aerial fireworks. And we also funded a sting operation, both for in the various parts of the supply chain for these illegal fireworks. So it's the import, the sale, and the distribution of these illegal fireworks. We now have law enforcement officers who will be working undercover to infiltrate this supply chain and then be able to identify who's doing it and prosecute them so that we can stop the flow of these illegal aerial fireworks. We also passed a new law that will make it easier for law enforcement officers to enforce our laws preventing illegal fireworks, which includes that we've set up a system that police officers would be able to issue tickets to individuals who are out there in the street shooting off illegal fireworks. And so you won't necessarily only be charged with a criminal offense, but you may be charged with a civil offense and be given a ticket, much like a traffic ticket, which will come with a fine. So we're going to try multiple ways to try to stop this use of illegal fireworks in our community. We increased the number of enforcement officers and funding to the Department of Law Enforcement to try to make sure we prevent the importation of this illegal fireworks into the state. Roads in limbo continue to be a challenge here in Hawaii County. And so we passed a couple of bills that seek to address this, and I can give you more information on this. If you're interested, just contact me. Housing, I won't go into all the details, but we passed a number of bills to try to reduce the cost of building new homes. We worked on programs to identify different wastewater treatment systems that people can use when they are converting from cesspools. And we changed the process of the Historic Preservation Division's review of all proposed developments to try to make sure it's more efficient. I won't go into more details here, but we also improved the landlord-tenant code. We addressed some issues related to property insurance in hopes of reducing the ever-increasing rate of property insurance. And we also made it easier for people to rebuild after a disaster. Education continues to be a priority of the state. One of the biggest budgets that we support is the Department of Education. There's significant deferred maintenance in our school facilities, so we appropriated additional funds for those. Our Waimea Elementary School has significant deferred maintenance. Waimea Middle, Kohala High School, elementary and middle school, also the same. And we appropriated funds for a number of different important programs within the Department of Education, including, as I mentioned earlier, the public pre-kindergarten expansion program, which is, I think, so important to our community. We also authorized the use of some additional types of transportation options for schools if they don't have enough buses, because that's been a problem in our community. And we've increased funding for the free or reduced price school meal program. It's a shame, but a number of our students in the schools don't have enough food at home. And so they are depending on the schools to feed them when they come to school. And a hungry child doesn't learn very well in a classroom. So we have increased appropriations to provide more free and reduced lunches and breakfast for students, which is so important. I chair the Committee on Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs, and we're responsible for all the judicial code. This was a big year for the judiciary. We were able to fully support the judiciary budget. We increased by one additional district court judge on Oahu, in rural Oahu, and an additional district court judge in Kona, which is much needed. So that was a big success this year. We were able to make permanent the community outreach court, which is basically going to the community and providing services to the houseless who have bench warrants or other things that jaywalking tickets and things that that are in their way as they may try to come back and re-enter society as, working members of our community. We increased the compensation rates for court-appointed counsel, that is court-appointed attorneys in criminal proceedings and in family court proceedings, which was really essential because we were not getting enough private attorneys willing to work as court-appointed attorneys because we weren't paying enough. We hadn't increased this in nearly 20 years. We had not increased their compensation rates. We finally were able to increase those compensation rates, and that should make a big difference because we really need to provide justice for all. And for those who cannot afford their own attorney, this is the way that we provide their counsel. We helped to address some concerns in the guardianship and conservatorship law, and we made permanent the Women's Court Program, which is a very successful program for adult women in the judicial system. And we established a pilot program to try the Women's Court Program in Kona, in the West Hawaii area of the Third Circuit. We also, there's cases where the police have to come and search an individual's property. But sometimes the law enforcement officers are dashing off to chase a suspect or follow up leads, and they haven't always posted notice that they had searched the property. And so we just made sure that there's a standard protocol that if the police officer, the law enforcement officer has searched a property, that they post notice that they searched the property and that they secure the entrances. And most of the law enforcement leadership within the state said we already do this. We just wanted to make sure that it was consistent statewide so that the community knows that if their property was searched, that it was a law enforcement officer who did that. I won't go into all these details, but we did make some significant changes to reform our juvenile justice program, our juvenile justice system, so that we're using best practices that are used across the country and that we treat our juveniles fairly and firmly when they do offend. One of the big bill that we passed, HB 126, was to reform our asset forfeiture program. Still to allow the police to be able to do this, but we wanted to make sure we increased our reporting requirements and that you were not able to forfeit the assets that were seized unless the individual was charged with an offense. And so, which is different from what it is now, because you can actually, your property can be seized and forfeited just on the basis of an arrest. And so, or even just a search without even an arrest. So this, we think, is going to make it more fair. We also made some changes to improve the expungement system. So for those who had been convicted or even arrested for an offense that is no longer an offense, they're able to clear their records so that it's not something that is going to prevent them from getting a job or from getting housing if you have a record. And so this is a way for those who qualify for expungement to be able to get their records expunged and cleared so that they aren't hindered from re-entering the society. We also worked with our correctional system to reform the use of solitary confinement in our jails and prisons. And we addressed an issue that people who have family members of deceased persons for whom law enforcement had initiated an investigation, we've set up a system so that those surviving immediate family members would be able to receive a closing report from the police department after a certain period of time. It's not an easy thing to talk about, but we have problems in our community, which are individuals that commit torture, which is terrible, but we didn't even have a law that allowed us to prosecute the offense of torture. So we finally were able to do that. I must admit, I'm not an attorney, but when I was asked to chair the Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs Committee, I didn't realize all of the concerns and unresolved issues that we had in our jurisdiction as the Judiciary Committee. and I've worked hard to try to address these issues. We've increased penalties for individuals who are convicted of violations of temporary restraining orders or orders for protection. We made it clear that you cannot hold a minor, a juvenile, in a jail or prison with adults because that can create significant problems. And so we were able to address some of those issues that had been unaddressed for a number of years. In Hawaiian affairs, we did okay, not as well as I wanted. I had requested significant increases in the budget for Office of Hawaiian Affairs. We were not able to get agreement between the Senate Ways and Means Committee and the House Finance Committee on this. The House did pass out an increase in funding for Office of Hawaiian Affairs, but the Senate did not feel that this was the right year to do that. So we were not able to increase the funding as I had hoped. So it's a level funding as we had for Office of Hawaiian Affairs as we had funded them in the past. The Department of Hawaiian Homelands, I had also requested increase in funding for the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. The House had passed an increase, but the Senate did not agree with that. We were not able to get agreement between the House and Senate. So we did not get an increase in additional funds for Department of Hawaiian Homelands. I will come back and try again next session. We passed a number of bills related to elections, strengthening our campaign finance laws to make sure that there's transparency and accountability in our elections and ethics and campaign finance laws within the state. We've had a concern, that the public doesn't trust government and doesn't trust elected officials. And so I've done everything I can to try to improve the ethics in our state government, address these concerns of the public so we can try to improve public trust in our elected officials and in our state government. Yep, so I'm wanting just to wrap up saying we've got some funding for Kawaihae North Small Boat Harbor, $9.5 million finally, and funding for the South Kohala District Courthouse. Thank you very much. I look forward to responding to your questions.
Thank you, Representative. We appreciate you connecting via Zoom. All right. Next up, I'd like to welcome District 4 State Senator Tim Richards up front for his presentation.
Aloha, everyone. A little bit better. Aloha, everyone. Yes, better. No, I'm just technologically challenged here. I just gotta say push and we're gonna do this. Okay, all right. Since legislature has ended, we've been doing numerous updates. I've tried to take a little bit different tact on each one, so it's a little bit different, and I look at things a little bit differently. Tonight's no different. I am Tim Richards. I am District 4, going from North Hilo, Hamakua, North South Kohala, and into North Kona. All right, so with that, let's get this rolling. Go ahead. Anamorphic. Denoting or relating to distorted projection or drawing that appears normal and viewed from one particular point, but changes if you look at it from another point. This is how I look at politics, okay? Okay, hit the slide. I don't know if you've seen this type of artwork, but looking straight on, it's a wire artwork. It's referred to as this anamorphic. Again, hit. Going about 90 degrees to that. And then one more time, hit it. Okay. The reason I use that is a little bit metaphorical of how I look at politics. Look at Hawaii. Next slide. Hawaii agriculture. Every time we talk about politics, my background is agriculture. Everybody in this room knows that. When we talk about agriculture, we're talking about food security, we're talking about the economy. More than just food, we're talking about the economy, housing and education. Every farmer and rancher has a family. You have to house them. You have to educate them. Environmental management is a key portion of agriculture going forward. And it's not just management, it is the stewardship. We can talk about wildfire management mitigation. I don't need to talk to this community about that. Rep. Tarnas brought that up. We had our fires too, and we've had more fires, but we haven't had the severity because quite frankly, we're better at it in fighting those fires. And that's a shout out to our relationships with our, first of all, our fire department, but then the relationships we have with the feds. Biosecurity, invasive species, I won't touch a lot on that. I talked a lot about it, but we did change Department of Agriculture from Department of Agriculture to Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity. Changing that names changes the mission. Talk about energy generation. This feeds back into agriculture. I'm going to touch a lot more on this tonight, sort of the light version of it. And then, of course, Hawaiian homes. This is all part of Hawaii agriculture, but I look at it from a different lens. Okay, so let's talk about the economy. I compare apples to apples here. US GDP, approximately $27 trillion. Federal budget, about a quarter of that, somewhere around 7 trillion. USDA budget, about approaching 190 billion, about approaching 3%. Next slide. State budget. State GDP, about 90 billion, that's down a little bit. State budget, again, about 23%, somewhere around 20 billion. Department of Agriculture, 75 million, 0.3% of the budget. 3% versus 0.3, so tenfold difference. We just start there, we start realizing what the importance is. Next slide. This is just for some information, and a lot of people have seen these slides before. Our state's about 4 million acres. We have about 1 million acres managed by DLNR, about 800,000 acres that Department of Agriculture has not oversight, but influence on and helps guide going forward. Next slide. Let's talk about the budget. Just our DOA has a budget of 0.37%. DLNR is about 1%, so we have almost 2 million acres. Half of the state landmass is managed by 1.3% of our state budget. We got a problem. This is why I look at things through the agricultural lens. Next slide. Okay, so let's set the stage. And again, when I'm looking at all this legislature and legislation, this guides where I'm coming from, and we'll get into that in just a second. Rep. Tarnas gave a great summary of all the different things we're working on, but I always look at it through that agricultural lens. We're from Big Island. We look at it a little bit differently. So where are we today with our food production? Next slide. I'm inherently lazy. You guys have heard me say that. Only read the stuff in white. That's the short version, okay? All the other information is there, but that's the quick stuff. Long story short, we have 1.4 million people in the state. That means we eat about 7 million pounds of food a day. Big Island, about 1 million pounds. Next slide. Add tourism, that bumps it up by about 20 to 25%. Annually, we eat over 3 billion pounds of food a year in our state. Next slide. Of that, 90% is imported. Transportation, we want to talk about agriculture. Most of the production is not at the market. The big market is Oahu. Most of the production is off of Oahu. So transportation is key. And I'm working with Department of Transportation and Young Brothers to focus in on that. Next slide. Here are just the top 20 commodities. The numbers here is about $450 million a year. If you put all agriculture there, it starts approaching about 750 million. As a percentage of our GDP, agriculture in the state is about 0.8%. Nationally, agriculture is only 0.7%. Big Island, we're about 4%. Next slide. What are we producing? Today, about 80% of the tomatoes, again, only read this part, only the way, real easy to read fast. We raise about 80% of the tomatoes we consume. Next slide. Cucumbers, about the same, 80% of what we eat. Our Keiki cucumber production out here in Lalamilo Farms produces 1% of the total national production of cucumbers.
Wow.
This is a huge deal. We have to be proud of that, but it also tells you how much we import. Nationally, not locally, but nationally. Next slide. Taro production, this one bothers me. We only produce about 50% of what we consume. Statewide, we have somewhere around 350 acres in production. Big Island's 70, 75 acres. We need to improve that. Next slide. Sweet potato, again, about 80% of what we consume. 20% we import. Next slide. Beef, this is a little bit different. This is a longer conversation, not for tonight. We produce about 7 or 8% of what we consume now. It could be about 25% if we retained everything, but we don't do that yet. We did it at one time. It changed in the 80s because it made more economic sense to take the cattle from Hawaii to the feed rather than take the feed and bring it to Hawaii. It was all economics. But there's been a reawakening of grass finish. Local finish, local production. Hawaii likes that, but we don't have the infrastructure, so that's what we have to work on. Next slide. Just from the other proteins, pork. We produce about 2% of what we eat. Import 98%. Next slide. Poultry, chicken. We produce about approaching 10%, which is up from about 15 years ago, which is good. Production in the right place. Next slide. Eggs. 5 years ago, we produced 2% of what we consume. Today, it's about 20%. Our state eats 1 million eggs a day. So that tells you the scale that we have to do if we're going to be food self-reliant. Next slide. Back in March, Lieutenant Governor has really embraced the food production, food self-reliance. It took a delegation to go meet with the USDA, new administration, and meet with Secretary Rollins. She asked me to go with her, so we did. We're there for a couple of days, and she asked me to lead the conversation with the secretary. Hawaii, we are unique and we are different. Hawaii and Alaska cannot be viewed like continental states. We know that. They don't. And they don't appreciate the challenges that we have. There's some very pointed conversations, and it was about what we are striving to do. Food security is national security, and food self-reliance is what we need to strive for. In order to get there, we need the critical mass to get us there. And in order to do that, we need help with infrastructure. We know how to do it, but we've got to build that infrastructure, and that's expensive. Next slide. Met with Secretary Rollins, and it was informative. There's a lot of aha moments for USDA. There's a lot of things they don't understand about Hawaii. Sometimes I wonder if they realize we are a state. But it's challenging to say the least. Next slide. We talked about a lot of things. One of the big projects or programs that we use here in Hawaii is the EQUIP program, and it helps us with infrastructure. It's not direct subsidy, it's help us with production. And 80 of the current contracts are livestock, approximately 80 are not. The big question is the funding is going to still be there. A big concern is the SNAP funding. We can talk about food security on this island. We are 40% food insecure, meaning we're not sure those families are going to have dinner tonight. Statewide, we're 30%, but Big Island is 40%. Next slide. This was some of the stuff that recently came out, and this is the part that I talked to the secretary about. They proposed a $300 billion cut over the next 10 years, and Rep. Tarnas talked about the free lunch program, so the state's going to be standing up that portion. 25% of the SNAP benefits statewide are used on the Big Island. We have 1/7 of the population that we're using 25% of the SNAP benefits. That equates to about 40,000 people or 21,000 households. This is a big deal for us. And this is what I was very pointed with the secretary about. Statewide, you can see the impacts there. Hawaii food basket, food banks, and this is something that really bugs me. 3.2 million pounds of food was distributed by our food basket on this island last year, 2024. Helped 60,000 people a month on our island. We only have 200,000 people on our island. Oahu, their food basket, they have our food basket has about a $17 million budget, and half of it is federally supported. If we cut that, where's that going to end up? If we're cutting our SNAP benefits and our support for our food basket, how's that going to play out? And again, this is what I mentioned to the secretary. Oahu they have about $65 million budget for their food bank. Of that, about 25 to 30% is federally supported. The biggest thing is that bottom line there, fastest growing demographic use of our food basket food bank is the military families. They can't make ends meet. Yet if we're seeing these cuts, where are we going to go with this? And so again, this was very pointed. So this is why I look at legislation through that lens. Next slide. Real quick, Rep. Tarnas did a good job. We go through a lot, and I spend about 60 hours a week during session at the office, just focusing on what we're working with. Quick numbers here, 3,171 bills introduced. We lose about half of them at the first reading and crossover. We lose another half at the second reading and crossover, or excuse me, at the second crossover. We go into conference, we start out with 3,100. We go into conference, we have 400 left. Coming out of conference, 259. So about 8% of the bills that get introduced. And we're not talking hundreds of hours of work. We're talking thousands of hours of work to get this done, to get something going through. What Rep. Tarnas talked about, those are the things that made it through, but not a lot of stuff makes it through. And it's a constant advocacy that actually gets things done. Next slide. I introduced 72 primary bills and signed on to a couple of hundred others. When you sign on, it's just you're saying, I like the idea. Introduce, we're trying to get something done. But not every bill is introduced with the anticipation it's going to pass. Sometimes we use it as a conversation starter to get something else worked on. Next slide. The bill that I got passed this year was actually a combination of 4 bills. David, how am I doing for time?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. The bill that I got passed was a combination of 4 bills, and this was a Cranston-Dupia bill, and it has to do with crimes in agriculture crimes. It's a combination of 4 bills. It was a stand your ground bill to be able to defend yourself and your property. It was a bill that was with Department of Law Enforcement to stand up in enforcement for crimes against agriculture, dedicated people to agriculture. It was in part one from the Attorney General's office that ramped up the penalties for crimes against agriculture. It was also the Department of Agriculture's portion, which had the regulatory side. It's a combination of everything. And Cranston Dupia was a rancher in Waimea that was murdered a year and a half ago. I met with his mother about 4 days after that happened. It's one of the toughest meetings I've been through. The whole point is we've got to take this serious if we're going to be serious about agriculture. And so we have been pushing. I talked to the governor. Today's Thursday. On Tuesday, he will be signing this bill. We're going to try and make an event of it. The best thing from this is we're going to take agriculture serious and protect agriculture. Next slide. So I talk about agriculture, and here is a bit of a shift, and this is something I also introduced. And now it is going through the process. If we're gonna have agriculture in the community, it's gonna be working together. For about a dozen years, it's longer now, 15 years, been working on food, water, and energy, a food nexus. Next slide. What I'm talking about specifically now is putting together a program that brings together water, food production, energy, and the management stewardship of all of that, so we can start doing something. So I have an idea. Next slide. The concept is to build a hydroelectric entity, Kohala Mountain, using Kohala Mountain water, running it down. This is all on Hawaiian homelands. The idea here is to generate electricity, but bring water down the mountain in a series of reservoirs, and I'm guessing 4 or 5. These are engineering questions, and I'm not an engineer. That we can store water while generating electricity, use that water for agriculture, irrigation, but technology has advanced. Our water in Waimea today comes from filtration systems. We put one of those filtration systems there, and we start generating potable water for Hawaiian homes, which will then get them off of the tenuous potable water and have a secured water source and more people. Next slide. We've got a lot of advantages. Kohala Mountain, it was almost designed to have a hydroelectric situation. We have high water, large volume, high water. We have a grade that is conducive to generating electricity and water storage. And we have a land entity that all connects that together. Next slide. It's too much to go through all the details right now, and quite frankly, I don't have them all fleshed out, but I've been working on the concept now for about 15 years. Both senators in DC and both representatives in DC has long heard about this. Senator Mazie Hirono and I shared a helicopter trip over the Kohala Mountains and discussed this project probably 12 years ago, 13 years ago. The idea is to harness what Mother Nature is bringing to us and manage it appropriately. We talk about hydroelectric, but we talk about pump storage hydro. The idea is to run water down when we need the energy during the day. At nighttime, when we don't need the energy as much, we can use alternative energies, wind turbines, and pump the water back uphill and store it again for use later. What this would do, what it will do, is generate an income stream for Hawaiian homes, so we can afford to do more things on Hawaiian homes. And because there is I use the term light industrial area right above Kawaihae, we could build cold storage there, and that entity would be the cheapest running cold storage because they're generating their own electricity. I have a number up here, 30 megawatts. Our county grid is about 200 megawatts, so this would be about 15%. Next slide. There's a lot that needs to go into this, and I have some timelines here. I took a stab at it. I'm not sure they're accurate, but I think they're in the ballpark. Phase 1 is going to take a couple of years for the feasibility and study. Environmental compliance, that'll take another couple of years. Next slide. Then we get into the design concept. We start this out in 25, 26. We're up to 32 before we get into construction. So we're talking about 6 to 8 years if we can break the inertia and get this thing running before we actually see it. But the best time to start it was yesterday. Okay, second best is today, right? Ongoing again, 2032. This is a fuzzy number, meaning I don't know if we're going to get it done, but I'm sure going to be pushed hard. From there, we go forward. Next slide. We have a lot of things to work on. I have some estimates as far as cost. Feasibility 5 to 10 million. Construction costs have 100 million plus. It may be closer to 200 million, but that really doesn't matter. Because the cost savings it'll bring to the community, that the economic generator will bring to Hawaiian homes is phenomenal. And it'll save us money, meaning the community as a whole. But there's a lot of details to get worked out between now and then. Power purchase agreements. At the same time, though, as we're working towards this, we'll save money for Hawaiian homes because we'll be getting them the potable water that they have long been waiting. That's the biggest one for me. Next slide. We've got a lot to work on, and there's a list here, and I'm not gonna read all this stuff. I can get you the information later. But we have a lot of top story to get through. But the timing is now getting right. Like I said, I've been working on this for 15 years. I'm finally in an office that I can nudge harder. I have a louder voice and I can push harder to get things done because I've long believed that the area, Kailapa, I grew up calling it Ponapoa, is set, and this can really do something for that community. Next slide. Some of the things here, we're gonna have to pay attention to the environment as we do this. But I have been looking at this stuff literally for decades. And I think there's really a good way to get this done that we steward while we take care of everything while we're advancing the needs of the community. And I truly believe that if we get this done, that's going to benefit everybody. Most important, it's going to benefit Hawaiian homes. Next slide. Community benefit. This is something I pulled out the global goals. If you look at number 7, affordable and clean energy, we can tie in there. This gets back to the nexus. The energy component, the environmental management component, the food production component, and it starts tying this all together for the community as a whole. Next slide. And I'm almost about, well, I see the red flag coming up here. So with this, again, it's going to be a community situation putting this together. My success indicators, I put that in green again. Look, read the stuff that is different colored. We'll measure it by the water that we deliver, the energy delivered, but also the number of people we help in the community. And while we're taking care of the needs of our community and feeding our people. Next slide. I'm almost following this one. So again, conclusion going forward. This is about making a big shift that is going to take a lot of lifting to get done. But I think we're staged now. Senator Schatz has introduced this as an earmark in the federal budget. It's going to be tough getting it through, but again, time to start. Next slide. So with that, that's all I have. I think we're open for questions now. Thank you.
Auntie Lonnie is gonna walk around with the mic. If you've got a question, raise your hand. And then, if we can bring Rep Tarnas back on screen. And, I'm gonna let you pick. My hands are here.
Oh, go ahead, Jim.
I have a question, but I'm going to precede it with a vote of extreme gratitude to you, Tim, and to you, David, for supporting the Gathering Place project at St. James, new community centre and commercial kitchen available for rent and available for use by the community meal. We have actually, with your support, we're now at 4.2 million. We're expecting an infusion of about 600,000 in the next month. So we're getting very close to our 5 million. And we're this close to getting the permit into county, so we're moving forward. Thank you very much. My question is, am I right in thinking that you supported a lot less GIA grants this year, or was it about average?
When you say you, are you talking legislature or me personally?
Legislature.
Okay. The economics of what's going on with our budget right now, as you saw, $19.9 billion budget. What we don't know is we ended the legislature last year, we had about a $1 billion carry forward, which put us in good shape. When we started the legislature, things had dwindled down to about 200 million based upon everything that's going on in DC and the economy, and it's triggered it and all the domino effects. What the legislature did was they set aside $200 million And it's not in the rainy day fund, but it's a set aside to make sure we can deal with some bills that we may not know what's coming up. And then we've set aside another 50 million for the GIA that you're talking about, because a lot of the GIA grant and aid participants get federal funding and they don't know where they're gonna be. So there's a lot of up in the air right now. Senate President, who's a Senator Kochi from Kawaihae, was asked in one of our interviews at the end how he would grade the legislature success rate, and he said he's given an I for incomplete, meaning we don't know the effects of what the budgets are gonna be right now. And we're kind of holding our breath on this. So does that answer that, Tim? I mean, things were kind of held back because we're we're trying to be fiscally minded as we go forward. We don't want to run out of the programs that we really need. And so we're kind of waiting. We'll probably have a special session, probably in later October or first part of November. Federal budget takes effect October 1. We'll probably know what's going on before then, but we'll have a special session to see if we need to do something.
Tim, if I could respond, just saying that there's an increased number of requests. And so the percentage that we were able to fund was less. And as Senator Richards said, we set aside a significant $50 million for grants and aid that we can come back in special session and basically try to fill in some of the gaps that have been created by the federal cuts. So it was very, very competitive grant and aid program. And Tim and I were very grateful that we were able to provide the support for the gathering place where the community meals are offered every week. And thank you, Tim, and to the community for providing those. Mahalo.
Aloha, Rep. Tarnas and Senator, your work in the judiciary and your work in aid, thank you very much. I have a few questions and it'll address both of you regarding Hawaiian homelands and your plans for Hawaiian homelands. So it sounds like you've already gone to the Congress or Senate and at least pushed funding for the project in Kailafa. And you also okayed a $20 million fund for the geothermal dwelling for wells in Kailafa before there was a beneficiary consultation. You always put the cart before the horse when it comes to the Kanaka. So you're pushing a project to take the water, not only the Hawaiian homelands, even though that is, I believe, in the Ahupua'a of Kailafa. So that water is the property, I guess, of Kanaka, the Hawaiian homelands. Those are the properties of the beneficiaries. You're planning to use that to generate agriculture, to generate a lot of other projects besides what the Hawaiian community has asked for generations. I find it very interesting that after all of the years that the Kailafa people have gone without water, that all of a sudden you're going to bring the water down. You're going to gift the Kanaka and the Hawaiian homes people with water and electricity and geothermal. And I gave testimony to 1307 to you, Mr. Tarnas, about the geothermal project in Kailafa, putting it so close to a residential area to our people, how dangerous it would be. And again, there was no beneficiary consultation before you okayed $20 million for the exploratory wells. Exploratory wells for a multi-billion-dollar international corporation that should be funding their own projects. So to take $20 million from taxpayers and try to take funding from Hawaiian homelands to give them exploratory wells without even a beneficiary consultation and without even looking at the dangers to the health dangers of our own people. For what? For geothermal, and where is that energy gonna go? 4,000 gallons of water a day are needed for geothermal. And our own people couldn't get a well. I would like to hear your response to all of that, why you put the cart before the horse. And then my last, and I don't mean to be offensive, but why are non-Kanaka heading the Hawaiian Affairs Committee in the state and the Senate? Why is that? You have qualified Kanaka on your committees, both of you, in the state and the Senate, that could chair those committees and would be much more informed about what it is that we go through what we need and what we would like as a community before non-Hawaiians and someone who, I'm Kawaihae, you're not even from here, David. You're not born and raised here. You don't know. No, neither of you are in Hawaiian homelands. You don't know what it's been like for our people. And this plan you have now, how many times have we heard these? The airport was gonna help us. The wastewater treatments were gonna help us. The mall was gonna help us. All of the things that have gone on to Hawaiian homelands, there's more non-Hawaiians on Hawaiian homelands than there are Kanaka. More non-Hawaiian businesses are on Hawaiian homelands than our own people. And now we have another carrot. Oh, water, geothermal. This is gonna help you. This is gonna help Hawaiian homes. This is gonna make you money. This is gonna make you independent. We've heard it all. We've heard it all. I want to hear your, in front of all of these people, I want to hear your comment on that. And then I would like to know why, especially at this point where we are as a people, why we have non-Hawaiians representing us in the Hawaiian Affairs Committee as chairs. Thank you.
Yeah, I would prefer to have a Hawaiian member of the House chair, the Hawaiian Affairs Committee. I've urged the speaker to create a separate committee, which is a Hawaiian Affairs Committee, and have it chaired by a Native Hawaiian member. And I was not able to get that approved. So I asked if I could have a Native Hawaiian vice chair that I could help to mentor, so that in the near future, perhaps not in 2026, but in 2027, we could create a Hawaiian Affairs Committee, and that she could chair it. It's Mahina Poipoi from Molokai. So I fully agree. I would much prefer to have a Native Hawaiian member of the House chair of the Hawaiian Affairs Committee. I didn't ask for this committee chair position. I took it because I was asked to do it. And so I fully agree with you. Regarding the geothermal, I received assurances from Kali Watson that this is not for development at Kailapa, but rather it was for development at Humu'ula. And so it would not be near any residential area, because I agree that it's not appropriate to have any sort of geothermal development near a residential area. And I got assurances from Kali Watson that there would be beneficiary consultation and before moving forward with any environmental impact statements, all of which would need to be done before any exploratory wells or other research would need to be done. So there would have to be beneficiary consultation and public input on environmental impact statements. So ma'am, I agree with you that would be necessary. And so those are assurances that I got before supporting the bill going forward. Senator Richards, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, and I think Rep. Tarnas touched on that. He's coming through it. Rep. Tarnas touched on that pretty well. First of all, to the beneficiary consultation, we're not even there yet. This is conceptual. It's strictly the top story phase. Jojo asked me to put together a presentation, and we're getting it scheduled anyway, so I'll be coming down to Kailapa, the top story. It's going to be more refined than this is. This isn't going to happen. This is a concept that could happen, but it's going to have the support of the community. This is not a ramrod by any stretch. This is a request for water. I know, I can see it in your face, you don't agree. Okay, and that's fine. I'm not here to convince you of that. I'm here to try and get something done for the community. As far as representation on the Hawaiian Affairs, I didn't ask for this committee. I was asked to serve on the committee, and the Hawaiian members of the Senate pushed for me to take this for a couple of reasons. One of them is that I did grow up here. I am Kawaihae to the place, and I do understand some of the challenges. Not all of them. I'm not going to say I do, but I do understand water management. I do understand land management very well, and I would argue probably much better than most. And I think we can do something good. And it's not just for, this is one concept. We have a lot of water to get to a lot of lands to help our Hawaiian homes. And that's one of my driving issues, because again, come back to the initial of my presentation. I look at it from the agricultural lens. I was at the Shaw meeting Tuesday, when you're discussing this specifically, looking at it from the agriculture, they asked, is there any way we can get pastoral leases, agricultural leases, not just homes? I said, I don't know, but let's start talking stories, see if from the next that went forward. So I hear you, and I don't blame you for your skepticism, because I've seen it too. Born and raised in the area, I've watched it too. I've watched the promises and I've watched the non-delivery of things. I get it. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna keep pushing forward because I grew up with a lot of the guys out there. I knew a lot of people that were on the list that never got where they passed. So I hear what you're saying. But that doesn't change my direction of trying to do something I can do for that, I think. Okay.
Okay, in the interest of time, we want to try to move around and give other people a chance to ask questions.
Yep.
I have a question on this end.
Aloha. I guess my question to the audience is how many of you folks know about O'Uli Farms, 840 acres? That's going to be happening on the coast, and how can we, or how can you, as our representatives, both of you, protect us from people that are misusing the zoning? It's ag land down there. It's just above Mauna Kea Beach Hotel. If you folks are wondering, you know how great that land is for growing things. It's the worst rating. And so they're getting through this huge 840 acre development under the guise of being gentlemen farmers. And I really, really appreciate, Tim, the letter that came from your office to me after I wrote to you folks. How do we protect our ag lands from development, from commercial? And how do we stop this scam of people, saying they're gonna do ag when they're having infinity pools, golf courses, all that on the coast?
Okay, I could be a different government guy and say, but that's county, I'm state, so I'm out. I'm not gonna do that because I was county and I looked at that, and I'm still concerned. But to your point, we need housing. That is housing, but that's not what we're talking about, right? A little bit up the hill, we have the only self-help, and that's the housing we're talking about. Okay, what she's referring to, and some of you may know this, it is a gentleman farm. What they're doing is, because I was asked to go look and understand it. It's not farming. What they're doing is they're using food crops as landscaping. Okay, my first question. Water. I know these lands and they're zoned agriculture, but those are a little bit misleading. Because back in the day, everything was zoned ag 20, because that was easy, just ag 20 everything. So it's zoned ag, but it's not a high quality agricultural land. Extensive grazing is the best, or with a lot of water, you can probably grow something. Waimea is a little bit different. The soils over there are much deeper than on that side. So when you say protect, this is the continuum that we have to work on. It's a balance between having the funding to get things done versus what they're going to do there. I still haven't gotten an answer as far as the water. Yes, we have what I call way off the stream. I think they call it the Waikoloa stream, which is the one that comes down there. And I've long thought that we could take some of that water and store it for agriculture going forward. But that's a DLNR and that's through the seaworm, and that's a very long process. And to my knowledge, nothing's been done there. So quite frankly, I don't know what the plan is for water for that. It's a housing development as far as I'm concerned. So.
Okay, I'm gonna take a question right here.
Yeah.
Hi all, thank you so much for your time and information. And I wanted to ask you, Senator and Representative and everyone in this room, are there any incentives or ways to get people started in subsistence farming or to really push ag? So I know for myself, my ancestors are from Waimea and I have a lot of land, but there's a lot of a difference between having raw land and having land that can be used and both landowners and renters, and I'm really trying to bridge that gap, because I agree, we need it here.
Okay, I'm a numbers person. I have a science mind, so I look at statistics. That's why I threw all those numbers in front of you. Back in the shift from 1800 to 1900, 50% of the population came from agriculture. From 1900 to 2000, we're down to about 2%. Right now, we're somewhere a little bit under 1.5%. So first of all, the public doesn't understand agriculture. They think they understand agriculture, but they don't understand agriculture. Subsistence farming, in the true sense, is 7 days a week, sun up to sundown, to live, to eat. I don't think that's what people want to do anymore. But we have to have productive farming. And how do we get there? And that's why I started this, the infrastructure that we need to be able to support agriculture going forward. And small scale, large scale, people ask me, what do I support? I say everything. Plant, animal, organic, conventional, ornamental, it doesn't matter. Because I support it all, because all of it helps the next, for getting that critical mass going. What we need help with is funding of that infrastructure, transportation, cold storage, etc. And that's why my conversations with USDA, we have a large military presence here. Okay. But they're gonna pay their own way, and they need to help us out with transportation. They need to help us out with infrastructure. And that's why the Danica Highway, the Saddle Road, that was DOD money that helped fund that. We're looking at that to finish that coming forward. And if we're gonna have a military presence here, it's my opinion that need to help with a lot of infrastructure, which comes back to what you're talking about. If we have that infrastructure that will support getting the smaller farmers up and running. The university has a great program, Go Farm Hawaii. That's a great program, and the best thing about it is it shows people how hard it is to farm. Each program starts out with 80 or 90 people. By the first month, they're down to about 15 or 20. Lucky if 5 graduate over a 9-month deal.
Okay, I'm gonna take one question right here.
Hi, my name is Kelly Sanders. I'm actually a farmer in Waimea. We started an Mamaki tea farm. I have a concern with one of the legislations that is actually on the desk of our governor right now. And it is HB 496. And it has to do with the labeling of Mamaki tea, and I have a problem with it because it's such a vague labeling process. If I take Mamaki tea, which is grown on Hawaiian homelands by Hawaiian people, and then I take mint and I add that to it, now I cannot call it Mamaki tea. How is that? It doesn't change Mamaki tea.
Did you contact my office about this?
We have.
Okay. What he's bringing up is a very valid point. This is when legislation didn't exactly get it right.
Correct.
This comes over from the coffee labeling. And that was a 40-year in the making to take it from 10% coffee, Kona coffee, to 51% Kona coffee, to call it Kona coffee. The idea was to protect the Mamaki tea, and I wasn't involved in drafting this legislation. The intent was to be sure that if it's called Mamaki, it is raised in Hawaii and must be Mamaki.
Right.
The problem that we have discovered is that if you adulterate it, I use that term, if you add anything to it, it's not 100%, so thereby you can't say Mamaki. That wasn't the intention of the legislation. So the question is, does it push for the governor to veto and we fix it next legislative session? Or do we let this go through to protect the pure Mamaki and then fix it next legislative session?
Businesses like Maria's business that actually does it properly and is a Hawaiian person selling Hawaiian products.
Correct. And see, I agree with you. I fully agree with you. I mean, we always put things that add flavor or different comments. So I completely agree with you. The question is, what do we do about it to fix it? Because to me, if you're gonna say Mamaki, it's gotta be raised here in Hawaii. And this all started when Rep. Kahoua and Senator Kanuha and I were at the, sounds funny, but at the Indianapolis State Fair for Indiana. And we were in the Indiana grown pavilion and had coffee there. With a big label says Indiana grown. And I looked at Kahoua and Kanuha, and Drew said, no, what's the deal? The way they label it is if it's raised or processed in the state, they call it Indiana grown. I don't support that, no. And so that was the intention. I don't know who the author of that bill was, but I know what you're talking about, the problem, and that has to be fixed.
It has to be fixed.
Yeah, so, and it will be addressed the next session.
With the family that I'm working with, we spent tens of thousands of dollars to start this team.
Yep.
And we're also working with Ed Ag to actually work with our community.
No, you're spot
We're
on.
gonna be punished
I know.
because somebody's not doing it.
And that was a mistake because unintended consequences that sometimes happen. So I don't know which the better way to go is, but let's have a conversation.
We'd love to have a
Because,
conversation.
yeah, because I agree with you and I'm willing to work on it next session. And maybe this is one of the reasons that government does need to veto this. Not that it's a bad idea, it's just not quite right yet.
It needs to be worded properly.
Okay, we're running out of time. We're gonna take one more question. Anyone else who has questions,
One more again.
then talk to Tim or David.
Hi,
There you go.
yeah. You know, I was looking at your presentation for the water for Kawaihae, and there's a couple of steps in there that won't work. Number one is the preservation. The state historic preservation on Hawaiian homelands is not working. Because Hawaiian homelands is not recognizing all of the historic places, and you can see that when you read the South Kohala CDP document, not there. And then, we're trying to work with the cultural resources, so that's not working either. We tried working with Shifty, that's not working either. The other thing is the Waimea community is holding this water, meetings. Because they are also, having problems with water. Water is something the Hawaiian homestead has in every homestead, but for Waimea, the community is trying to investigate getting water for Waimea. One of the things that happened is their speaker was the sewer, the water commission. They'll work on Hawaiian homes. They do the Kahena dish, and they do all the other lands that they manage. And they will not work on Hawaiian homes, because we were going to ask them to speak to the community, and they will not. And so you have a couple of things in there, and I think there's one or two more that you have steps there, not work.
And that's why I'm coming down to visit with you guys and we talk story and you tell me what is and what isn't. And we start going from there. Gil and I don't get along real well because I don't agree with some of the stuff that they're putting forth. We have the water resources that we don't have as a management for that. And that's where we have to come together and get that. That's it. But that's why I'm coming down, Jojo. I promise you, we're gonna get that done. And it'll be a bit more fleshed out than what you're seeing up here. And this isn't the map. This is a document to start talking stories with.
Mr. Richard.
Yes.
This is so important for us because some Hawaiians came here for one reason, it's the water. Why is it every time you folks get a meeting, you folks put everything in the sun, and then when it comes to us guys, we always wait and they hurry us for the meeting power really. What? Always we do that. You guys do that to the Hawaiians. You folks should have been on the first agenda and then put him in the last agenda.
And that's why.
No, wait, Tim.
Okay.
You live here.
Yep.
We live here. We need you guys. You too, David. I talked to you on the phone a couple of years ago that you are gonna meet your maker if you don't stop, addressing the Hawaiian people.
So,
No, not hurry. You guys always put us last. You give us a shit end of the deal. I am tired of this. I am really tired of doing things like this, and you make us feel that we're not wanted in Waimea. I am Koko. I am Hawaiian, and you treat us like nothing. Tim, you should know. You're from Kaua Ranch. I am from Kakako. awful, and we go to the same crap. But why you guys always put us last? Why? Why?
I am coming to Kailafa, I am in time for. I hear you.
This got stopped him.
Aloha, I'm also someone from the community that has a concern about the water. I know we have an agenda, but I would like to sort of interject because I think that fight is very important to talk about. And we shouldn't rush that process. Earlier, I heard you say, Senator, that it's gonna benefit the whole community, and I got concerned about that, because I remember when you and Representative Tarnas had the meeting over at Parker School. I mentioned that up in Honokaia, where we also had an issue with water insecurity for the past 18 years, that Helco is running power from the Makai Highway up to the Ahualoa well, and the Hawaiian Homes beneficiaries in that area are being denied water. Yet the power, I repeat, is being run through Hawaiian Homes. That's right. Okay, so when you talked about earlier that the hydroelectric project is gonna benefit the whole community, the first concern that came to my mind is, like you said, this is premature.
You know, I don't want to cut you off, but I know we were supposed to stop 20 minutes ago, okay? But let's finish this conversation. This has got to be the last.
No, what I
one.
was gonna say, excuse
Okay.
me, is that the reason I'm concerned about your project is because I have attended beneficiary consultations since I was 9 years old. A lot of the kupuna who I sat next to are no longer here.
That's
I was
the
the only
problem.
child that attended those meetings. I should have been playing, but I wanted to hear what was happening. Okay, so I've attended Board of Commissioners, excuse me, I've attended DHHL Commissioner meetings, and I've not heard anything about the project from them. So I know, Representative Tarnas, you said that you spoke with Kali Watson. I'm curious, what did they say in terms of when the beneficiaries are gonna hear about this project? Only because the beneficiaries are the stakeholders of that project, and if we're telling the community first, we definitely are putting the cart before the horse. I'm very concerned about Helco running that power from the Makai Highway down by the Boy Scout camp along the bottom highway. And I am speaking to my community. I'm having this conversation because I want them to know I am of the generation that we do tell our story. We do tell our truth. My mom, my grandpa, them, they didn't. But that power is running a well for people on that side. All the Hawaiians, 18 years, we have no water and we keep hauling. You know, my husband, he's a rancher. His father's a rancher. We're hauling our water. Now we're hauling it so dry, twice a day. We're on our second diesel truck. That's $350, $75,000 truck. We're on our second one.
And this is why I'm pushing for water. I have ideas for water on this side as well. Today was to introduce this concept, but this isn't new. I've been talking about this for a dozen years. This is not brand new. There's many people that have heard it. There's many Hawaiians that have heard
Oh
me
yeah,
talk
I'm
about
following
this.
it too. What I'm saying is we need to prioritize the beneficiaries
Which is
before we
what I
talk
am
about
doing.
benefiting the community.
When
Because
I-
that's Hawaiian Homes land.
They misunderstood. When I say benefit the community, eventually the greater community, but I'm talking about the Kailafa communities first. Benefit them first.
I'm just surprised we're hearing from it from you first and not the chairman of the Hawaiian Homes Commission.
It's a community meeting, and this is the rollout. I
Thank
discussed
you.
this with them. This isn't the plan. That's what, please take away. This is not the plan.
Yeah.
This is the concept.
I appreciate your.
And-
All right, okay, thank you so much, Senator Richards and Representative Tarnas. We appreciate your support. Thank you for being here. Everyone, please drive safely home. Our next meeting is back here on July 10th from 7:30 to 5 p.m. We'll be talking about geothermal energy and plastic recycling. If you have a question on how to get a hold of Senator Richards or Representative Tarnas, please go ahead and ask them. Mahalo.
Wow, no, it doesn't feel.